Those are my friends, Kati and David. Kati, also known as Evil Jungle Princess. Thanks for sharing your garden with us once again. Right now we're going to be talking about some tricks of the trade for gardeners who want to work with some of those big, heavy materials, the stone, for example, that you saw in that garden. Joining me is Troy Nixon with Environmental Survey Consulting, and Troy helped Kati and David with some of those elements in their garden.
We did.
And it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Environmental Survey Consulting does phenomenal work in terms of landscape restoration, and one of the things that I every time I see a garden that y'all work in, I know it by the stonework. Exceptionally beautiful, naturalistic, but also fantastic kinds of creations.
Right, right. It's a lot of fun. I'm very proud to be involved with it. I mean, sometimes you look at a site and you just say, what in the world are we doing? And these truckloads of rock show up, and then toward the end, and the plants get in, and you see things coming together, and it's just amazing. And
well, it's amazing, and for a lot of people, it's a little awe-inspiring, or maybe even intimidating, because these are big, heavy materials, and they don't have maybe the resources to hire crews of people to help them move stone, but they want that look in their garden.
Sure.
So what we're going to be talking about are ways that, some practical, strategic ways of creating some of those beautiful looks, but without having to have a millionaire's bank account.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of tricks, and a lot of the things, it's a matter of scale. If we just scale down, it's the principles are very similar, whether you're doing smaller rock or larger rock. The ways we cut it, the ways we move it. There are some tricks, Tom. We use carts, we use tree dollies, or regular dollies. You can move some pretty good size flat limestone around for pathways.
Right. Well, let's start with a pathway. Okay, this is one of the most basic elements of any garden.
Right.
Any garden needs a path.
Sure.
There's some. You brought some illustration material that shows these beautiful, these large-scale stones that you've used.
Right.
Mostly naturalistic looking, but they fit together perfectly.
Right.
And this is a neat little trick.
Yes, it is. What we do basically is we'll get a load of rock, or you can go pick it up at Whittlesey, Custom Stone, whoever.
Right. Yeah.
Pick it up wherever you buy rock. You can leave the edges natural, and you make 2 cuts on each rock, and you fit them together.
Okay, so you just cut off ends, and so that you can piece them together.
Right.
And a nice. What do you use to cut them?
We generally use a circular saw. We have some bigger saws for thicker rock, but a circular saw, a homeowner can do it with a circular saw and a diamond blade. I recommend a segmented diamond blade.
Okay, segmented diamond blade.
Reasonably important, yeah.
Okay.
And then you just cut it, and you give it a tap with a hammer, and it'll break off. And so then you just start fitting those together. And then the trick is getting the rocks set. And I think one of the things that we see a lot of times that people sort of take the easy way out, and it's one of those old things of you pay me now or pay me later type thing. You put your effort in now or put it in later. They'll put sand down. They'll put a sand base down and set their rocks on a sand base. Sand is inevitably going to wash away. Yeah. And you end up with a sort of wonky pathway. Not the most comfortable to walk on. So we prefer to set rocks on existing subgrade, whether you just are removing some sod and getting down to what was under that, or if you need to build up some elevation, to bring in road base. And you can buy that by the bag, or you can get a small load delivered to your place. And then shovel that in thin layers, wet it down, and perhaps tamp it a little bit, and then set your stones on that. Once you set the stones, as you set them, you'll notice with the irregular limestone that are in some of the pictures, what you want to do is maybe get on it and sort of wobble it around.
Yeah.
And then pick it back up. And look, and you can see where it's made impressions, like there's a knot on the bottom. You can tell where that is. And so what we use a lot of the time is a mason's hammer, the little blade on the back end, and just sort of scrape around, dig a little bit, push it around, put it back down. You may have to lift it 3 or 4 times, but it's well worth it to get it set correctly. and then you don't have to mess with it anymore.
Now, a lot of the stones, whether it's for, and you use this cutting technique for putting patio spaces together as well, and some of those look like really, incredibly intricate jigsaw puzzles. But you use that same road-based technique for laying them down. And how do you move those big stones around? You said you use dollies and stuff, but once you've got them down on that surface, there's some other tricks or techniques that you use.
A couple of other tricks. One is with just a pick. You use the pointed end of a pick, and you lift it up a little bit, and then have someone push with a rock bar, and you can slide it that way because you're taking some of the friction off. Another way is with pieces of PVC pipe, say 2-inch PVC pipe. If it's a really rough surface, you want to get something a little larger. But 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of, you can really roll some sort of Egyptian style. If you're on a hard surface and you're trying to get a large rock into an area, you can actually do it on golf balls. We've done that before, which is a really funny thing. I thought that was just the craziest thing ever, but it works absolutely really well. You can move 1,000-pound rocks on golf balls on a driveway or something, and it's pretty astonishing. All the mechanical advantage of using a pick and using a rock bar and just taking your time so you don't get your fingers squished or your toes or whatever. You can really do some phenomenal stuff, and you'll be really pleased as you get downstream a little bit and you get these big rocks in place, and your friends come over and say, "Wow, how did you do that?"
Right. Well, one of the other, we've talked about pathways and flat surfaces. Another thing that rock is fantastic for is terracing and walls. And Environmental Survey Consulting does some of the most beautiful walls that I've ever seen. Are there some basic tricks about stone placement or building walls that you can give people?
Well, it's natural stone is a wonderful material because you can sort of let it. You can let it be natural. We may stack walls that we'll have walls that will start apart from each other, and they'll come and they'll stack up. Sometimes 2 or 3 will stack up, and it becomes a seating area. They become vertical, and then they spread back apart. We are constantly leaving little planting niches. Even if you push the rocks back a few inches, it doesn't take much to get a Damianita or a Pavoni or something. Just a little niche for it to grow. And a lot of times those big rock walls that you've seen, they look very monolithic and very white when they're first done. It's like, oh my. But when you get plants into those things and you start softening everything up and taking away a lot of that rock, it's a great way to tame some grades or create seating areas or what we find a lot of times is a house is built here and the other grades here, they need a way to get there as opposed to just a staircase.
Right.
So much more.
And terracing is a great way for so many people to have gardens in our area. Otherwise, it is not a whole lot of alternatives.
It's a way to get some soil thickness out there. There are some, a couple of pictures I think we have that show where it's one terrace maybe along the driveway, and then there's another terrace 8 inches up. So we got 8 inches of soil on top of the bedrock there, and then another one. And so all of a sudden you've got 16 inches of soil back there. You can plant all kinds of stuff. Anything that we want to plant.
Makes a huge difference. And there's one trick that you use that I really like, and that is kind of combining pathways with drains. And this is something that drainage is a huge issue, again, for many people in Central Texas because they have these runoffs from storms.
Absolutely. And the thinking has changed so much in the years since I first started doing landscape stuff. It used to be you want to get the water off your site. These days we want to keep the water on our site. We want to let it infiltrate our soils. So a lot of the drain channels that we do are just rocks that are fitted loosely together in the bottom. In one of our big rains, the water will get out of the area. You've got to have fall and you've got to have a place for it to go, but it will travel across that in the big rain events. But in a light rain event, the water is infiltrating in between the stones. There's a picture that we have that there's some live oaks really near that drain channel, and so the water infiltrates and gets to the root system of that live oak. I mean, there's some big monumental live oaks real near the house. The other thing that was nice about that particular picture is that one side of the drain channel is a pathway, and the other side is sort of a border along a turf area. And it's just a neat comment. I really like that style.
I like that too, and combining it. And when you do have the light rain, you can walk beside this flowing stream.
Right,
You know,
right.
Otherwise, watch out, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Right. Well, anyway, there's so much here and that people can learn from. But my best advice really is just buy some rock, get some appropriate tools, and just start playing with it. It's not as intimidating as it should be.
No, it's not.
And need to be.
I'm sorry. One thing, though, I was going to say, safety glasses and dust masks.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Very good. Well, a very important point, and we appreciate you being a part of the program. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you.
All right. And again, from Environmental Survey Consulting, and coming up next is our friend Daphne Richards.